All right, let's get started. In step number 1, I am going to walk you through 4 teachings that are very important. They're very important because they're going to help your child out, and everything that we do from this point forward is based on these 4 principles. Now, I really don't want you to do much in step number 1. I just want you to sit back, watch the lessons, listen to what I'm teaching, and see how it applies to you and see how it applies to your child. They're not very long either, but what I'm going to be covering is how you view your child's misbehavior. Then we're going to get into boundaries, what they are, and how to use them. In lesson 3, we're going to talk about natural consequences and how powerful it is when we use natural consequences. And in the 4th lesson, I'm going to talk about some very dangerous patterns that all parents fall into. And I want you to know what they are and to be able to avoid those. So this first lesson is about how you view your child's misbehavior. And it's basically like this. When your child is misbehaving, do you view them as a bad kid who's doing bad things just because they want to? Or do you see them as a good kid who, when life is real, in the heat of the moment, they're having a hard time making the right choice? Or maybe they don't even know how to make the right choice in that moment. There's a big difference in those two. And I'll tell you, my belief is, and this is after working with thousands of kids, kids are good and they want to do well. They want their parents to be proud of them. They want to know that they made the right choice. They want to know that they handled that situation and to feel good just about how they're living their life. They want to do well. And when a child is really struggling to make a good choice, something else is going on there. And it's not just about right and wrong. I mean, think about yourself. How many times have you known what the right thing to do was, but you still didn't do it? You knew it wasn't the right thing to be eating all that cake. Or you knew it wasn't the right thing to be drinking at that time. Or you knew there was something you needed to be getting done, but you couldn't get yourself off the couch. Or maybe, you shouldn't have been talking about that person in that way. You knew it wasn't the right thing to do, but you still did it. Does that mean you're a bad person? No, not at all. Now, maybe there's something you need to learn. Learn how to motivate yourself more. Learn about a better way to have self-discipline. Yeah, there's a path to making a better choice, but it's not that you are a bad person. That's not why you're doing it. Same thing with your kids. They are not bad kids, but they need to be taught. And that's your job. That's where you come in and to teach them a better way. I remember this mom that came to see me. She had a 14-year-old son, and she was convinced of 2 things. 1, that he was addicted to his phone, and 2, that he hated her. She talked about how he would go around constantly with his phone. He never parted from it. And whenever she would try to take it from him, he would melt down, he would scream at her, he would cuss, he would throw things, just horrible behavior. And it was really causing trouble, not only in their relationship, but in how she viewed him. She particularly talked about nighttime. At nighttime, he would stay up basically all night on his phone. And she would try to take it away. She would tell him he couldn't be on it, and he just wouldn't do it. And even if she took it away, he would find it. He would find it, and at 1 in the morning, she'd look in his room, and he was under his covers. She could see the glow coming out from the blanket, and he was doing it again. And she got so mad. And it didn't matter what she said, he just wouldn't do it. So she was convinced that he knew what to do, he just wouldn't do it because he did not like her. He did not care what she thought. He was doing a lot of it just to make her mad. And I told her, I didn't think so. I thought something else was going on. I didn't think he was just being a bad kid. He was just trying to make her angry. So I asked her, when you try to take his phone away from him, what are the reasons he tells you why he has to have his phone? And she thought about it a moment and she said, well, there are a few things he says. 1, that all of his friends are texting late and that's what they all do, and he wants to do what his friends are doing. 2nd, he talks about how he doesn't want to miss out on anything, that people send like a cool picture on Snapchat or something, and he didn't want to miss out on that. And then he's always saying that he can't go to sleep without his phone. He needs his phone to fall asleep. I told her, I said, he just gave you a lot of really good information, and I think a lot of that stuff is true to him. Now, I told her right away, him staying on his phone is a bad choice. Him having meltdowns when you ask for it is not good behavior, and he cannot have his phone at night. He cannot treat you that way. That stuff is bad, but I think there's more to it and why he's doing this, and we need to figure this out. So what I knew about this kid is that he was really having a hard time fitting in at school. And think about it, to a 14-year-old, to be accepted and to fit into school, that's like one of their top priorities, the most important thing to him. And he saw his phone as his lifeline, his connection to friends. He was having a hard time making friends face to face, but at night he could text them and they would text back and he could join in these conversations. This was like lifeblood for him. I mean, he had to stay connected. It was not just about his mom. He did not want to lose the one place that he felt connected. And he definitely didn't want to be that kid who showed up the next day and missed the big story and to feel awkward and left out. Those were very, very powerful things. And he was clearly having some struggles with his self-esteem and being able to handle himself. And that whole piece about going to bed at night, I really do believe that's true. I see that with kids and teens over and over and over. They have just become accustomed to having these devices all the time, even when they're going to bed, and they basically stay on them until they get tired and fall asleep. And that might take hours, but you take that away from them, it's like they're lost. You know, I'm just supposed to lay here and fall asleep? How does that work? I thought all those things were very legitimate for this kid. And I said, okay, he needs you to help him. Stop viewing this as a personal attack and start seeing your son as a kid who's really struggling and needs help. He needs help with skills. He needs to learn how to have better friend skills, how to fit in a way where he can have a conversation and he can connect with peers and learn to develop friendships. He needs to learn how to handle frustration and tolerate when something is disappointing. And he needs to learn how to be able to fall asleep at night without a device. And many, many other things that he was listing and I could see that were skills that he needed to learn at this point in his life. So I started working with that mom. We started going through the same steps I'm going to show you. And as things were turning around for her son and for her and her son, she referenced that conversation. She said, you know, that really helped me out when I started seeing him not as a bad kid, but as that he really needed help. And so she said she would, you know, go into his room and he'd have his phone and she'd take a breath and she'd say, okay, he needs help and I'm going to help him. That's why I'm going to follow these steps. It was a real game changer for her. Look, your child, no matter what's going on with them, they need to learn about life. They need to learn skills, and there's all kinds of skills, right? There's practical skills, you know, being able to brush your teeth, tie your shoes, change a tire, that kind of stuff. There are emotional skills, which are very important. When you're frustrated, when things aren't going your way, how do you tolerate that frustration? How do you calm yourself down? How do you regulate your mood? How do you do all that kind of stuff? Those are things that we learn. And then there's executive skills, or, you know, things like organization, prioritizing, time management, you know, that kind of stuff. So many things that your kids need to learn. And when you get focused on teaching them those skills, it really makes a difference. And the thing is, and this is what I want you to focus on, you know, think about the times that your kids are misbehaving. What are the skills that they need to behave in a different way? Do they need to learn to calm themselves down? Do they need to learn to get along? Do they need to work on some of that self-confidence and how they view themselves? What is it that they need to learn? That's what we're going to be doing in this course. It's a foundational principle. We want to teach our kids a better way. We're going to make a map and we're going to show them how to do better, how to get there. All right? So I want you to take a moment and think about those things. And then in lesson number 2, we're going to talk about boundaries, which is a big part of how you teach your kids. Huge part. All right? I will see you in lesson number 2.